Aussie Defence Minister Richard Marles is set to unveil a new aid package for Ukraine on the sidelines of the 75th NATO Summit. It comes as world leaders condemned Russia's missile attack on Kyiv's children's hospital. Joining me live to discuss this is Ukraine's ambassador to Australia, Vasyl Myroshnychenko. Hi there, Vasyl. So great to see you after we met in Canberra last month. So let's talk about the expectations in terms of aid to Ukraine from the NATO Summit.
We have realistic expectations from the NATO Summit, and Ukraine will be one of the key topics which will be discussed there. So now it's all about better coordination of support for Ukraine. Also, it is expected that NATO countries will make a new big announcement in terms of long-term support for the country, and especially in providing air defense systems, which is necessary. While we are waiting, we're also expecting a decision of the NATO members that we will become a NATO member in the future, because it's a matter of our survival. At this stage, Ukraine is pursuing bilateral defense treaties and security treaties with many countries and have signed 20 of those at the moment. Realistic expectations, but at the same time, we're expecting more assistance to be provided to Ukraine. And will these measures be Trump-proof, as the reports like to call it? What is currently done is to basically for NATO structures to take over that coordination, which so far has been led by the US. And the reason for that is also because there is already an institution which has been heavily involved in all of this. It will be, and currently, the US is supporting this, and many countries are working on this tirelessly to make sure that NATO can take over this coordination. And what do you think of Narendra Modi visiting Russia and hugging Vladimir Putin on the day that we have this shocking bombing of a children's hospital in Kyiv? I think Prime Minister Modi was insidiously framed by Russia. So he was there on a visit, and it was on the same day when Russians have made this egregious attack against the children's hospital, and seen all those children out there, cancer kids, leaving the hospital. Many got killed, many got injured, and at the same time, Prime Minister was hugging the Russian president, who's a war criminal, and it's very unfortunate that it's happened. And of course, Russia has said that it wasn't their missile, that it was Ukraine's anti-missile system. In fact, I was also looking at Chinese media, and they're quoting a lot of what Russia's saying. What do you make of that? We have irrefutable evidence that that was a Russian missile that was deliberately targeting that children's hospital. It's already been verified by a number of experts out there. Also, I have to note that it was not only that facility that was targeted, also two maternity houses were in Kyiv were also damaged. It's no coincidence. It's been done deliberately, and the main purpose of that is to terrorize the Ukrainian population, intimidate general public, and put more pressure on Ukraine. So Russia is demonstrating that they can go much lower, because if we have a permanent member of the UN Security Council which is destroying a children's hospital, I think that the system of international relations is in deep crisis. Do you think this will be a turning point in the Ukraine war? It's definitely one of the most atrocious attacks that we have seen so far. I mean, how cynic it was, how really infuriating and heartbreaking it was to see what Russians have done. And it was also done prior to this NATO summit. And I think the only response to that should be that more assistance is provided to Ukraine. There is more resolve to provide that long-term support, because at the end of the day, Russia understands strengths, and it's important to demonstrate that strengths. And that strength comes down to the capabilities that we should have to be able to fend off this attack and actually defeat Russian troops on the ground and force their full withdrawal from Ukraine. I read on Wikipedia that you actually come from a family of doctors. So that must give you an even, deeper understanding of the challenges that are faced on the ground for medical personnel in Kyiv. It does indeed. I've spent, when I was a kid, I grew up in a hospital pretty much because both of my parents were medical doctors. And also for this hospital that was hit, I've taken both my daughter and my son for consultations there a number of times. Also, one of the maternity hospitals which got hit, it was the place where my son was born. And seeing it, all the destructions which Russians are bringing is really extremely distressing to me personally, but all the Ukrainians. But we've seen such a strong response internationally of donating money to rebuild the hospital. And I think Australia could also play a role by using some of the Russian assets which are frozen here for the rebuild of that hospital. I think that will be the right response, as well as providing more military assistance to Ukraine.
Thank you so much for your time today. Ambassador Vasyl Myroshnychenko, Ukraine ambassador to Australia.